So this is simply incredible. Jack Ma, arrested? What? Why? How? When? So many questions, so little answers. How is this related to Alibaba? When did this happen? And of course, the share price immediately hit for a nosedive, plunging as much as 9.4% in the Hong Kong market, essentially wiping out $26 billion worth of market value. 26 billion with a B, by the way.
What?
So for context, that's the entire market cap of Neo or Interactive Brokers for my international viewers or Maybank for my local viewers, wiped out in the span of the first 30 minutes of market opening in Hong Kong, just based on a simple piece of news. Sorry, not news. Rumor of Jack Ma getting arrested. You know what else we should arrest? Arresting the like button, of course, before it gets away. So now, this speculation gained some form of legitimacy after a state broadcaster from CCTV actually reported that authorities in the company's home base, which is Hangzhou, had imposed curbs or sanctions on an individual surnamed Ma. So in normal times, just these two lines of phenomenal reporting will get everyone scratching their heads, thinking that, hey, it might just be part of their normal crackdown operations on corruption. Interestingly enough, at least in this current climate, it must be Jack Ma. Given the history between Jack and the CCP, the dynamics between the regulators and the specific company itself, which is Alibaba we are talking about, and also the corruption dealings of ex-Hangzhou party chief, would it be anything extraordinary if Jack Ma was also embroiled in this particular scandal, resulting in such a quote-unquote sanctioning by the government? I don't think it would sound that ridiculous, but it's still ridiculous. Anyhow, the heat on Jack Ma and Alibaba have been present for God knows how long, since the start of this entire ordeal back in November of 2020, where an IPO was essentially quote-unquote rug pulled. It has been more than 18 months since, but we are only arresting Jack Ma now. Then that would also mean that the Chinese government might not be as efficient as we thought they were. Of course, things aren't as simple as it looks, and I'm sure there are definitely still tail-end risks involved in this particular investment, which includes a corruption embroiled Jack Ma leading to the entire downfall of the stock itself. Now, if we were to go back to how everything have started and germinated in the first place, so firstly, the news first broke from the official state broadcasting network, and then rumors started circulating like wildfire on social media, where the Hangzhou National Security Department has taken criminal compulsory measures against Ma for collusion with anti-China hostile forces.
What?
So subsequently though, there was an official publication on the Supreme People's Procuratorate of the People's Republic of China webpage. Essentially, they just said that this particular person with the surname Ma is still under investigation since the 25th of April 2022. So the silver lining for Alibaba's share price was within these three characters, Ma Momo. So for those of you who are unaware, Jack is not in Jack Ma's official name. So his official Chinese name is characterized with two words, which is Ma Yun. Hence, there are only two characters in his name. And in the publication, the culprit at hand has a name of Ma something something. So by translation, Mo means something. So ironically speaking, there is also another famous business leader in the tech world with Ma as his surname. And more importantly, he has three characters in his name as well. Do you know who it is? So for those of you who actually guessed Tencent, then you're right. Pony Ma's Chinese name is Ma Huateng, and it fits the description of Ma Momo perfectly. However, Tencent's share price seemed to be more immune to such volatility because after this announcement, Tencent only plunged 3% at its peak. Hence, the biggest takeaway we have here is that perception really do matter. So Jack Ma has already concretized his position as the trailblazer that led the protests against regulators and more importantly, against the Chinese government. Whatever actions from here on will be seen as a resistance and a protest against the communist regime. Hence, this also explains why Alibaba, which is by extension a very important piece to the entire identity of Jack Ma, is at the centerpiece of how things have transpired in the last 18 months, and as you can see, the entire stock price of Alibaba. So according to Rui Ma, Ma is the 13th most common last name in China as of 2020, and it amounts to around 1.4% of the population in China, and it almost makes up 19 million people. However, when you triangulate the surname Ma in Hangzhou getting sanctioned or locked down because of his relationship with hostile forces, it's not too hard to fathom Jack Ma in this picture. So I think the bigger lesson that we can appreciate here is that in today's context, the majority of the Chinese stocks are slowly straying away from the fundamental bottom-up valuation approach. Fundamentals no longer matter to the stock because the risk of the Chinese government just seems too heavy to bear. The sentiments are simply unbearable, and even if these companies post phenomenal results, Wall Street or whoever that puts forth a valuation report can always do a line of what if the Chinese government do this or do that and it sends the price back down again. So the good news is, given this deviation, you either look at it as an opportunity or a risk that cannot be reconciled. So I'll leave the decision up to you to decide. However, I think people on both sides of the aisle shouldn't be too quick to judge and pass a quote-unquote absolute resolution. So by absolute, I mean by saying that this is either an opportunity of a lifetime or on the flip side, China is totally uninvestable. I think the conclusion usually comes somewhere in between in many different shades. That being said though, at the time of this recording, Alibaba essentially traded flat after the renouncement of this rumor. However, if I can make a bold prediction from here, I think Alibaba will be trading into the red into the US market just because. It's not Alibaba stock if it's not red in the US market. So on a more serious note, I would think that people that just recently entered into this Alibaba trade would be scared out of this investment. For my long-term back holders, I think this would be your first reaction. First time? I think it's not something to be particularly proud of, especially when you're losing a good amount of money, essentially by pure speculations and manipulations of some of those unwanted market participants, both with or sometimes even without intentions. However, this is the rule of the game, and we don't get to fix the rules. So, just invest accordingly and train your temperament. Ironically, many people have been quote-unquote flaunting their ability to be able to withstand a drawdown or even a bear market, constantly quoting Warren Buffett on his idea on being greedy when other people are fearful. I guess you haven't seen the hands of those holding Chinese tech stocks for the last 4 to 5 years while sitting on zero or even negligible positive or negative returns. Those are real, incredible diamond hands. Of course, many people will be mocking them for sitting on Chinese tech for so long and getting rug pulled by the Chinese government. Let's not forget, the big tech of today, your Apple, your Microsoft, was also trading sideways for a good period of time before their meteoric rise. I'm not saying that the same will happen to Alibaba and Tencent as well, but like I said previously, don't be too quick to judge, don't be too quick to laugh. In today's market at least, Chinese stocks are definitely at the bottom of this entire hierarchy. But I will continue smoking on my hopium and stay in my delusional world that the Chinese capital markets will kind of figure its way out sooner rather than later in order to keep in lockstep with the ambitions of the country and the government. With that, I will see you in the next video, but more importantly, I will see you on the moon. Goodbye!